Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Gershon, and I'm here again today with another terrific BetterHealth weekly webinar series on healthcare innovation and technology and the impact that innovation and technology has on you as a patient and you as a human being. Um, we have all gone through several years of pandemic, and through that experience have recognized the importance of healthcare, and the community that it builds is really the focus of this webinar. We have in the audience today people from all over the world, from industries in healthcare, biotech, bioag, biopharma. We have med tech, health tech, digital health. We've got faculty, we've got students, and we've got entrepreneurs and CEOs. And today I am absolutely thrilled to have two terrific CEO co-founders in Andy Olson and Kristin Brogaard, who are representing Inherent Biosciences, a truly terrific company in the field of epigenetics using AI and ML and understanding that this is potentially the pathway to real personalized healthcare, or what has been popularly called lately precision medicine. What does precision medicine mean for you as a person, as someone who may be a patient? It means complete paradigm shifts in the accuracy of your diagnosis, in the accuracy of your treatment algorithms, increasing efficiencies, decreasing side effects, bringing cost effective healthcare to the healthcare system. I know that's a lot to unpack, and that's why we've got a half an hour to 45 minutes to talk to these two incredible people who are really going to tell you what is epigenetics, what does it mean for you, and frankly, I've kind of hidden the area or subspecial that they focus in on because it's going to be a little surprise, and I like surprises. So I want to first, before introducing our incredible speakers, as I always do, I want to thank everyone so much for participating, so much for coming to the weekly events, the questions that you've asked. We have people from every part of the world signing in, and this engagement is meaningful because of the community that we're building. So thank you, everyone, for participating. It is just, very heartwarming to know about your support, and it keeps us excited and engaged. With this, I'm going to now ask Andy and Kristin to tell us a little bit about themselves. How did they get together? What motivated them? What is the mission and vision of the company? And most importantly, as always, what is the potential impact or the real world impact that their technology and their company is going to have now? And then later in the conversation, let's take a pull back and see what do they envision 3 to 5 years from now. So, Andy and Kristin, if you could start it off by telling us a little bit about yourself, about the company, the mission and vision, that would be great.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Martin Gershon. We appreciate the opportunity, and it's been wonderful to get to know you. So I'm Andy Olson, co-founder and CEO of Inherent Biosciences. And prior to co-founding Inherent Biosciences, I led commercialization in both large enterprises and startup biotech companies, and all focused on this area of precision medicine. And this area of identifying particularly what's the accurate diagnosis, because if you know what's going on, then you can get to the treatment that's most likely to succeed. There's a lot of trial and error medicine in our healthcare system of, we don't know exactly what's going on, let's try something and see if this works. And so, and I've had personal experience with that, particularly with my mother. She suffered from severe rheumatoid arthritis and went through a lot of trial and error medicine. And I watched that firsthand for 35 years as she battled that disease. And so, in the area of precision medicine, there's now technology that can be applied to these diagnoses, this medical journey that we go through. And that first step is getting an accurate diagnosis. And so that's the area that we focused on. And we have a great story about how we met, Kristin and I. And, I had gone through, so after, the big companies, I've done five biotech startups and gone through 4 exits, leading commercialization in these startups, and was looking for what's the next clinical problem that needs to be solved. And all of these companies that I've been involved with have been in using emerging technologies in the DNA analysis area. So either doing microarray technology or next generation sequencing technology, and identifying what's going on at a DNA level. And there's this area that was emerging in this field of epigenetics. And epi is a prefix that means above or on top of, and then genetics is the DNA. So we're looking at what's on the DNA that's turning on and off that DNA and creating proteins in our cells. And I was starting to work on this area. I was looking at what's the next clinical problems that need to be solved. I went into a co-working space in Salt Lake City, Utah, called Kiln. And when you come into this co-working space, you tell on the community what you're doing, put your picture up, and I did that. And there happened to be a software engineer who saw what I was doing and said, "Oh my gosh, you need to meet Dr. Kristin Brogaard. She's a PhD in the field of epigenetics, and I think the two of you could really, do something amazing together." And that was 4 years ago when that happened. And as a result, I reached out to Kristin on LinkedIn. I said, "Hey, Matt Strum, who's this software engineer, said I should connect with you." And she came down to this co-working space, Kiln, in Salt Lake City, and we met for 2 hours. And at the end of that 2 hours, she said, "Okay, let's work together for like 2 weeks and see how this goes." And so we did that. And at the end of those 2 weeks, she said, "I'm in, let's go." And she became a co-founder of the company. And I'll let Kristin give her amazing background. She's been wonderful to work with and really excited about what we're building together.
Yeah, thanks, Andy, and thank you, Martin, for the opportunity to speak here. So I am Kristin Brogaard. I am Chief Scientific Officer and co-founder at Inherent. And as Andy mentioned, my background is in the sciences. So doctorate work focused on developing novel technologies in the epigenetic space. I was really fascinated by epigenetics early on because of its potential to start to tease out the complexity of all different phenotypes and diseases. I felt it was an area that needed to be progressed with novel technologies. And with that, developed a brand new technology to map chromatin spacing on DNA at base pair resolution, where we could really understand how protein regulation of unfolding of DNA can affect gene expression, which is associated, different types of chromatin patterns is associated with different disease states. From there, I moved on to my postdoctorate work, where I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Leroy Hood in Seattle, who is just a visionary in the space of technology development and precision medicine. Had the opportunity to run his clinical trial in the field of systems biology, which is using multi-omic data and machine learning to understand a person's true normal, looking at genomics, proteomics, metabolomics, gut health, brain health, physical health, putting it all together and using machine learning to spit out a very actionable recommendation for that individual to have them, live healthier. And it's really bringing science to the wellness industry. So had a great opportunity to run this clinical trial with 100 individuals over a year, and using this type of very personalized data and identifying what a person's normal is and being able to track things out of normal, we were able to diagnose cancers before they were clinically diagnosed. We were able to bring people out of pre-diabetic state because we could see everything going on. And we have multiple publications that came out of this work, and the launch of a company that came out of this clinical trial, where we were using, again, multi-omic data, machine learning on thousands of individuals to track them over time to help them live healthier lives. So with that, just the combination of the epigenetics, the multi-omic data, the machine learning, it really developed a huge passion for personalized medicine and developing new ways to help people in this type of trial and error medicine, and understanding what a person's true background or biological background is, rather than using population averages or genetics, which has great potential on some things, but is not very helpful in very complex diseases. So after that company, I had the opportunity I moved out to Utah, which was a great opportunity to live in the mountains, and wanted to start something new. And again, like Andy said, was very serendipitously introduced to Andy, where he was building on an IP portfolio. And this is where our company is first focused on gamete epigenetics. So looking at specifically sperm epigenetics and how that could be instrumental in progressing the field of male reproductive health. First, I was extremely interested in this because of just the scientific potential. Sperm is an interesting starting point because you can isolate it, which is anyone who knows epigenetics, you want single cell types. And then it's easy to get and you get lots of DNA. So it's an interesting place to start. But really, when I started digging into it in the 2 weeks working with Andy and understanding male reproductive health, I was totally blown away by the lack of innovation in the space. And then, being an older mother and having friends and family in the same space, fertility in general is, by society and even in the medical field, is the burden's entirely placed on the female. And that's largely because there's not technology and research around the male side. And we know 50% of infertility is due to male factors. So there was just a huge opportunity to start to understand how epigenetics could be related to male reproductive health and how we could actually transform the fertility field to really bring equality to the whole process. And we've been able to do that. And I'm really excited where our company's going. We have huge data sets. We have a very complex biological system, which is male reproductive health. And with machine learning, we now have the potential to really get granular understanding which proteins, which gene expression is associated specifically with different types of male factor infertility and even prostate cancer or longer term lifespan. So we have a huge opportunity in this space because of the large data sets associated with it, the complexity of the disease, and where the technology is at right now. So really excited for where we're going.
Super terrific overview. There's so much to unpack there. Let me start by saying thank you for everything that you're doing, and thank you for the audience and the participation from all over the world. Let me focus in on a couple of different points that you made, which I think are key for us to focus in on. First of all, most important, this has real world impact on people now and going forward, even more impact. So I want to underscore that and leave that as a starting point. The ability to use this technology now takes us to the next level of understanding about how genes and proteins, real physiology, real metabolism, real pathways, all of these things and many, many, many more intersect. And that ability gives us what is most important in understanding any type of big data analysis: insight. So I would say that I would frame what you do as an insight platform. It's easier to say than epigenetics. And I would say that this insight platform allows us to go across diseases. And it allows us to also bridge the gap between illness and wellness. You talked about some type of preventative understanding. Insights into preventative medicine is part of the future. So I'm super excited about exploring in this initial conversation the understanding of what the science is doing right now for a very personal part of healthcare. And this personal part of healthcare, which was the surprise, is fertility. Now, there have been a number of different companies. We have featured one of them in our fall symposium, which is KindBody, which is a fantastic company. It is focused in vitro fertilization and providing in vitro fertilization in a much more economic and affordably priced service, democratizing the ability to have people from all socioeconomic branches have in vitro fertilization. Number two, to have the service done by women for women with a women's voice and touch out of an institution that usually has white-coated men behind it.
Yep.
So this has been a dramatic success only in the past few months. And so we were very thrilled to be able to highlight the company before that pivot point. And the pivot point happened when Google Ventures came in with a $100 million check to support them in an endeavor where they're now rolling out their product across Walmart for all of the women who are employees, which we think really is the sign of the times. And it speaks to the next point, collaboration. So what I'm particularly excited about as a physician, as a researcher, as an investor, whose mission really is to change the healthcare system and improve people's lives, how do these points intersect? They intersect in leadership. And what I am so excited about with bringing you and Andy here is true leadership. Vision to be able to look to the future, and a working relationship that is able to operationalize that through collaboration and through partnerships. The world now is rewarding a different type of leader, and I want to highlight the two of you as really the hallmark of what we should be looking for in healthcare. So I would like you to talk a little bit about the collaborations that you have. You've already talked about, where the origin, of the meeting and the company comes from. I would like you to talk about those experiences a bit, to tell the audience about, as leaders, what you look for in collaboration partners, what you have in place, and what you are shouting out to the community for that you need.
Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Want me to start? Oh, go ahead, Andy.
Sure. I was going to say collaboration is.
I love the energy that you're fighting for, getting in there. So this is just fantastic.
It's collaboration is huge, and we have a very collaborative approach to this. And part of that is, when you're changing the standard of care in healthcare, you can't do that by yourself. You've got to do that with people, key opinion leaders, co-authors of the guidelines, the clinical guidelines. And so we've taken a very collaborative approach, both with the academic collaborators as well as clinical collaborators, in identifying what's the clinical evidence that needs to be produced in order to consider adding this to the standard of care, or having this be part of the new standard of care in identifying if there's a male factor. And this, the reason why we focused on fertility is it's a huge issue that historically has kind of gone untalked about. Like, people just didn't want to talk about it. Now the World Health Organization has identified 1 in 6 people experience infertility worldwide. It's a huge issue. And there's a lot of focus on the female partner. She gets extensive and invasive testing and treatment. And yet, as Kristin mentioned, up to 50% of infertility is due to male factors. And the standard of care is really rudimentary. I call it like 6th grade science. We're taking a microscope, counting how many sperm are there and how many are swimming. And when I found out about that, that gap there, I thought, we can surely do better than this. And there's molecular technologies, like in the field of epigenetics, that could be applied to this clinical situation and identify if there's a male factor there, and then guide treatment. And that's really what this is about, is guiding treatment for people who are going through this experience. And so the collaborations that we have are with the key opinion leaders in this space. There's certain types of doctors. There's reproductive urologists and reproductive endocrinologists. And we've really focused on understanding their world, the challenges that they face, and how we can work with them. And then the bodies, the industry, in this industry, there's the groups that are moving things forward, moving the science forward, and also providing resources and funding for these kinds of things. And I'll let Kristin talk about some of the groups that we're engaged with to bring this new technology to the forefront and really get it, the standard of care raised on the male side of reproductive health.
Yeah, Andy, that's exactly right. I think I couldn't have said that better. And collaboration is absolutely the key to success in our eyes. And when all boats rise, when everyone can be involved, and I think having multiple brains at the table is better than just Andy and I trying to figure this out together. We are very dedicated, as Andy said, to clinical collaborations. We have SBIR grants with groups that we are running clinical trials with. So we have NIH grants that are bringing in other organizations to collaborate with our company. In addition, really our research collaboration in our pipeline has been generated from very close collaborations with academic institutes for groups that are pushing this forward. In academics, you have abilities. You have different abilities than you do as a startup. And so together, it's a really nice unity of driving a product pipeline forward. And again, we have grants, and we're consistently writing grants with those academic collaborators. So really everybody wins and can get funding to drive this forward. We are a very data-driven company. So science first is our mantra. So working with academic collaborators, we're really keen on making sure we're doing the best science possible. We do independent validation of all of our data. We've had now 2 groups independently validate our current product that's out there. So we really are keen on doing the right thing data-wise. And with that, the academic collaborators have been amazing. And as a startup, we're running lean. So we are really utilizing all the resources out there to help us move forward and really make great partnerships with industry and academics.
I'll give you a quick plug and to my friend who just highlighted you winning this fantastic competition. I will say now that to pull the curtain back a little bit, I was a pretty strong voice in pushing you guys into the spotlight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am very excited, that my voice carried some weight in that decision process. But, the company is doing great things, and it has been rewarded a little bit, in terms of physicians coming together who have rewarded the company with the first prize in a recent competition. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, that's great. But really kudos to you in terms of that experience. And maybe, talk a little bit about, the feedback, because physicians were evaluating you, which is a little bit different, than investors. I mean, physicians have their own kind of, focus on things. And that is kind of a bit of a collaboration partnership as you are extending your work out into the physician community. You want buy-in and you want feedback. So a little bit of a plug for the people that gave you some money.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was Health Tech Investors, and what Rashad is doing there as a physician, founder of that organization. We have been extremely blessed by the early investors in our company, a number of which are physicians, and seeing what we're doing, the potential of the technology to be applied to other clinical areas beyond reproductive health. I mean, you got to start somewhere and focus, and that's what we've done with reproductive health. And there's a number of reasons for that. Beyond the clinical need, it's a great area to innovate initially and then to expand beyond that. One of our very first checks came from a physician group here in Utah, Med Mountain Ventures, and Dr. Sumitra Thakur, who he joined our board and has been an incredible supporter and an internal medicine physician. His partner is an RE physician, Brandon Rosenhan, and they've just been unbelievable in supporting the company early on, very early stage. And then now to have like Health Tech Investors, a group of physician angel investors that are interested in these kinds of solutions that make an impact for patients today, quickly, like we're getting things into the market quickly so that we can have an impact for patients today. And they recognize that, and we went up against over 70 companies in this pitch competition that really went over time. It was like a 3-month process. Incredible process. The diligence was very transparent, very good communication, unlike some of the other pitch competitions that we've been through. And it was the feedback was really helpful. You get feedback, and getting that from physicians who are living and breathing these healthcare scenarios every day is invaluable to a startup. That constant iteration is critical in the startup environment, where you've got to continue to iterate and get to that product market fit, understanding the market and then marrying up the product to that market so that you get a product market fit before scaling the company. And that's really what we focused on. And so we've been extremely blessed with the investors that we've had in the company so far.
So let me chime in a little bit here, because the core thesis of Endeavor 2 is different than Endeavor 1. Endeavor 1 was quite a large fund. We were investing mostly in Series B, sometimes Series A. We were looking at biotech companies. It was 69 investments, 55 exits. Endeavor 2 is completely different. And we have a venture studio, and the venture studio is a feeder to our Venture 2 fund, which comes in at B. And the venture studio, and the reason I mention this is because it highlights companies like Inherent, where it's all about gaining traction in the first few years. And traction means for us a number of important collaboration partnerships, and most importantly, revenue generation, use cases. So in your case, as a platform technology, we look at your company as a platform to begin to expand out into multiple use cases. And that's very exciting, because the goal is very simple: help the most people as quickly as we can to get better healthcare. And so one of the things that you talked about, talks about the ethos of the two of you coming together, the value set, and how that is, let's say, how that comes across when you make presentations, and the validation that you get from physicians might be a little bit different than the validation that you get from venture or from angel investors. I can tell you that I personally have been asked by the Angel Capital Association to now spearhead an entire new track within the Angel Capital Association, which just is focused on digital healthcare. And that's going to take several years, but it's an exciting indication that people are taking notice of the impact long-term that companies that do have platform technologies in the digital space are going to have on real outcomes. So I want to focus in on one segment of what you talked about within this framework, which is the folding of proteins. I don't want to get too technical and too into the weeds here, but this is kind of a big deal. It's like it can't be overstated how important this is. We only have to look at companies like Insilico. Insilico, for those people that don't know, has done something that is miraculous. That really is not a overstated word. It's not hyperbole. They have taken an AI program, and they have looked at how proteins fold, and they have looked at ways to identify certain targets, certain proteins, and to figure out how to validate those targets, and then to move it forward in clinical trials, all within an AI program, and then unbelievably commercialize this all the way through in 30 months. Now, why is this miraculous? Well, first of all, the AI program has looked at the protein folding very, very carefully and made correct decisions, which saves miraculous amounts of time, because the normal drug trial takes 12 and a half years and costs $2.5 billion. So one of the aspects of what I see in your platform is healthcare economics, value-based care. And so I want to not get too geeky on the science part, because I know we could geek out for hours together. But I want you to talk about this protein folding and how this can be drug discovery, how it can be, you talked about health and wellness with gut, kind of physiology. So pick one of those topics or talk broadly, however you want to describe it, about the protein folding, because that really, to me, is, part of the secret sauce here.
Yeah, it's such a great point, and we're at such a tipping point in the industry to be able to get to that time. I mean, this is 20 years ago. This conversation of being able to do what in silico is doing obviously wouldn't have happened. So it's a really fantastic question. Our current platform is right now only looking at DNA methylation. So as a company, we're focused on DNA methylation, but that does have downstream effects to everything, any type of protein output. Something we're very, very interested in, and especially in the fertility realm, moving past the sperm but into embryos. There's a lot of testing of single embryos and genetic testing of embryos for abnormalities, and then potentially recurrent pregnancy loss. And a lot of those reasons is because of information passed along from the sperm. And the sperm have proteins pre-folded in their head that get delivered to the egg. So specifically just on male reproductive health, we are extremely fascinated of understanding if we can go into looking into protein folding at the embryo level to really assess the likelihood of a recurrent pregnancy loss, because those proteins and how they're folded and how they're expressed have everything to do with the ability for the embryo to implant properly and progress properly in pregnancy. So it's something that is, like as you mentioned, it's applicable in almost every field because of the importance of how protein expression and folding. For us specifically, I think we have a line of sight to taking it one step further and really helping people understand and maintaining pregnancies throughout the whole term. And that absolutely is related to protein folding. So it's something we're really excited about. And then, longer term, as we develop our platform and get out just beyond DNA methylation and we go into different disease types, it's something that we are hoping to utilize. It's huge in the field.
Absolutely.
Can I add something real quick? I
Yeah.
want to add something real quick too. When we looked at this, we took a little bit different approach than what people have done, and the way that we did this. So typically how people have done it previously is they get a set of patients that have a disease, a complex disease, and they look at, in our case, epigenetics, we're looking at the DNA methylation as Kristin mentioned. So these are methyl groups on top of the DNA that are turning on and off gene expression and controlling some of that protein expression and protein folding. And so most of the time you get a group of patients that have the disease and you look inside those patients compared to normal, what's different? Where are there differential methylation in those patients? We took the opposite approach. So we looked at what does normal look like? What does healthy look like? So like in this case, for sperm to be really good, amazing functioning sperm that can do magical things, what does that look like at a molecular level? And then any deviation from that is probably not good. This is like when you go to the cardiologist and get your heart checked out and they do an electrocardiogram. You either get a normal electrocardiogram or you get an abnormal electrocardiogram. And an abnormal can be a whole bunch of different things. So the approach that we took was like, these are the things at the molecular level that are most important for a sperm to be a sperm today. And there's multiple cellular pathways that can be perturbed in a guy that's having a fertility issue, and that's an abnormal result, right? And so that's what we're detecting. We know what normal looks like. We're detecting a multiple cellular pathway abnormalities that could be causing this subfertility phenotype in these guys. And then our data scientists asked this great question. We have an amazing team, and our data scientist said, I wonder, if this is true in sperm, I wonder if it's true in other cell types. And so he pulled publicly available data. Thank goodness for the NIH and all the publicly available data that's out there. He pulled from 19 other cell types, and we saw the same thing. We saw that what normal looks like for that cell type, there's this deviation from it in this variability of DNA methylation at the points in the genome that matter the most for that cell. And so we just published this work. It was accepted by Frontiers in Genetics. And it was really exciting to see this novel approach to identifying variability in DNA methylation that is correlating with a disease phenotype. So again, it gets back to what you were talking about, Martin, that this is really a platform approach. And we focused on fertility, but we've got tremendous opportunity to apply this to other clinical areas as we continue to succeed.
Absolutely fantastic. I mean, I can see that people are going to be looking at pathways in a different way.
Yes.
So they're going to be, looking at the various steps and various pathways to see how some of this technology can gain more insight. And what if we knew more about this particular piece or that particular piece? And again, I don't want to get too far afield here because we could geek out for a long time. But one of the areas that's quite interesting is the area of microenvironments, particularly in cancer. So I see this, again, this is just a vision, where not really more than a hard piece of data, but looking at those microenvironments and looking at some of the things that you guys are doing in each one of those microenvironments, I can't imagine it's not going to give us insights into some of the things that are related to protein folding or these other things within the epigenetics umbrella that I think are going to give us new information about these microenvironments. The critical thing in the microenvironments is related to the personalized quality of care. So what does that particular group of cells from that particular patient, how do they interact in a cancer, system? And we had a fantastic company on a few weeks ago who's looking at this out of Tulane. I think it's just the tip of the iceberg to be able to really kind of dial down into these, smaller and smaller pieces of these pathways and understand, the metabolic processes for one singular purpose. We are looking at how drugs interact, within these microenvironments. So if we can gain more understanding about protein folding or other aspects of what you guys are doing in epigenetics, we can personalize the development of these new drugs on a real personalized level. Now, I know that this is a bit science fiction-y right now, and it's kind of high-level stuff, but I just thought I would put that on your desk and see what your thoughts are, because you really, the sky's the limit with the platform technology that you have.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying things that Andy and I are dreaming about, in the future. We're starting step one, but you were exactly right. I think the combination of epigenetics within a microenvironment and then network analysis of how the different microenvironments interact with each other, and then if you add in a perturbation or an external factor, how that all works together, that's going to be different for every person, and it's going to be different for every so that's where machine learning and large data comes in, where it's huge potential. It's absolutely huge. And we really believe in the future of epigenetic medicine. It's just one step at a time getting there and getting people bought in. I mean, physicians, it's an education barrier for physicians that we're finding in our process. So it's one step at a time, educating them about the potential, and then pushing this forward. And with fertility being the first, but yeah, we see exactly the future you just described.
So I hope that my friend Dr. Rebecca Mixad at Flatiron is listening to this, because she is a visionary who I will introduce you to. She is a kind, caring, thoughtful doctor and human being who cares deeply about oncology. And I'm sure that we would all have a very interesting dinner together, or at least a Zoom call. And so I'm going to reach out to her because, as you probably know, Flatiron is probably the major data gatherer, big data analyzer for oncology. Was bought by Roche, some 5 years ago for just under $3 billion, and is doing miraculous things. And we are working, with them, or we will look to, build collaboration with them for a number of projects that we're working on, including accelerating clinical trial enrollment for historically disenfranchised patients, which is a separate conversation. But I think the things that Flatiron are doing are absolutely the leading edge of medicine and science. And I think, you are right in their wheelhouse. So I would do what
Yeah.
I can to make that
Wonderful.
introduction.
We would love that. Absolutely. Thank you so much. That would be amazing.
So I want to just take a moment once again to thank everyone, for calling in. It is really about the people, who are participating both as featured speakers as well as participants. We have people like Martin who are calling in from Norway. We have Lauren calling in. We have Gabor calling in. We have Raul calling in. We have Nikhil from Canada and Malik from New York. It's important when you dial in or when you sign on, let us know where you are. And if you have questions, and there are questions here, please include your email, because if we don't have time, because we're so enthusiastic, in our live conversations, if we don't have time to answer your questions, and if you include your email, I certainly will forward them off to the featured speakers, who will probably give you an incredible understanding from their perspective and answer your questions. Let me just look here. I'll just say that we have some comments here. Like, I love the discussion. What are your thoughts about leaders who have both depth and width or breadth of knowledge in subject matter? And how do you kind of look at this in terms of where leaders are taking us in healthcare? So that's a very kind of high level question. I'm sure that you have met in your competitions, quite a number of different entrepreneurs. You've also met incredible faculty members who have been inspiring mentors. I personally, look, I am an academic geek by nature. I've been inspired by people like you at the university, setting, but also inspired by people in industry. So maybe we could just, put the
Yeah.
science next to this question about leadership, because I do think it's important. The people that inspire you, the motivations, it creates an ecosystem, which again is part of this webinar. Can we talk a little bit about some of these things? Because clearly you've had incredible personal experiences.
Do you want me to start, Andy?
I didn't want to jump in on this, but yeah, I was like, wait, give me a second. But yeah, we're building. Yeah, there's no question that we're building on the shoulders of the leaders that we've been involved with. So the biggest company I've been involved with was Roche Diagnostics, and incredible leadership there. Tiffany Olson was the CEO of the Roche Diagnostics Group at the time in the U.S. And then Chevron Swan, and it was incredible. I mean, what a great place for me to learn the basics of commercialization and business in emerging technologies. We were taking, real-time PCR as it was emerging, and then new technologies in DNA analysis, and bringing that into academic centers as well as healthcare settings, where they're using this as analyte-specific reagents to develop an assay in their lab to treat patients, right away. So without having to go through a big regulatory process, but developing these lab developed tests. And fortunately, we have a regulatory environment in the US that allows us to develop lab developed tests and validate those under CLIA and CAP, the College of American Pathology, and have those available, quickly into the market with good precision and accuracy, which is critical in diagnosis. So that leadership in other visionaries in this area too, mentors in this area too. So there's an organization called the Association for Molecular Pathology, AMP, very big leadership in molecular technologies, and particularly in the cancer side, but also in infectious disease and then in genetics and identifying rare and undiagnosed disease at a genetic level. Dan Farkas, he was president of AMP. He has been a visionary in this, a great mentor for me. He was originally a customer of mine, and then just a great mentor there as well. And then in all these other companies that I've been involved in these startups, incredible leaders that were pushing innovation into the clinic and providing new tools for physicians so that they could treat patients better. And it's all about those individuals who take the initiative, who are leaders in this field, and drive to an outcome that provides better care for patients. And Kristin's had similar experience with the leaders that she's been involved with, and the mentors that she's had as well. I'll let her talk about some of the leaders that she's been involved with, and that breadth and kind of depth stuff.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to, I don't think a single person or a single leader has the depth or breadth that's necessary for the success of a single product or for something to change the world. I think the best leaders, and Andy's one of them, is someone who recognizes what they know very well and then surrounds themselves with people who there's respect, and then also can bring things to the table. He's always hiring for those who bring something, a skill that we do not have. So there's no ego involved in the leaders that I have really looked up to. And it's because they know it's that collaboration. You need multiple brains to make something successful, and you're not going to have the depth or width or breadth to do it on your own. So it's working with our academic collaborators and bringing them in, because they know way more than we do about sperm epigenetics. We're learning. So it's bringing the whole community. I think is the best leader that I've been involved with, and that's consistent throughout my career. And one of the reasons I just respect Andy more than anything is his dedication to that.
I can't think of a better way to say thank you with that impassioned last bit of comments about people and about leaders who impact other people. And that's really, my personal mission and the focus and ethos around Endeavor Venture Studio, which is bring people together who just wake up at 2:30 in the morning with an idea and write it down, and start the day by calling their collaboration partners and saying, hey, I have this crazy idea, what do you think? And that kind of almost kind of garage band mentality where you're impassioned and you're driven in the most positive way, I think will really move the needle for people and change healthcare. I am so excited to be a physician. I'm so excited to be an investor in healthcare. I do believe that over the next 10 to 14 years, we're going to have a massive secular growth spurt, on the investment side. And I think that investment side has just tremendous benefits because science, innovation, technology, and leaders like both of you, are coming together in an unprecedented way. There is tremendous liquidity and tremendous demand, and Endeavor tries to sit in between liquidity and demand. And so it's my great pleasure to host you for the first and certainly not the last time, in the BetterHealth webinar. I want to thank everybody for, participating today in the audience. And once again, kind of thank you for all the people that are signing in. Lars, Martin, Raul, Nikhil, Jeffrey, Lauren, Malik, Gabor, just absolutely thank you so much. And we will see you next week with yet another really terrific company. We have a lineup that is spectacular, frankly, over the next 6 weeks. If you would like to participate in the webinar and you are a CEO, founder, entrepreneur, please reach out to me. You can contact me at martin@gershoncapital.com. You can review the video, which is pinned to my LinkedIn. If you're in search of that, you could also contact me at endeavor@gershoncapital.com. And certainly, if you want to reach out to Kristin and Andy, I know that they'd be enthusiastic to answer any questions. So for now, thank you, Andy. Thank you, Kristin, for coming. It's been an absolute pleasure.
This has been wonderful.
Thank you
for this forum.
Thank you. And appreciate what you're doing, Dr. Gershon, what you're doing to spread the message and the importance of all these companies, what we're doing to improve healthcare. So thank you so much for what you're doing.
Those are very kind words. I appreciate that. Goodbye, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon. Andy and Kristin, stay on for just a moment, please.
Great. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.